Hello everyone, welcome to the Modular House Show Ep.6 featuring Kevin Loh. And Kevin is the first classical guitarist we're having on the show. So let me just read off the bio from his website. Born and raised in Singapore, Kevin Loh is a recipient of the Fellowship of the Royal School of Music, the 2018 Tioe Centenary Award, and the 2010 HSBC Youth Excellence Award for Musical Excellence. He was talent scouted by the Yehudi Menuhin School via his YouTube channel when he was only 12 years old and was awarded a grant by the Rolling Stones to study at the prestigious music school as their first Asian guitarist. So, welcome, Kevin.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. Okay, so without further ado, how about charm us with a first piece?
All right, we'll do. So this first piece is the prelude from the Sixth Cello Suite by the German composer Johann Sebastian Bach.
Take it away. All right, Kevin, that was absolutely beautiful.
Thank you very
And
much.
So that was Johann Sebastian Bach's cello suite arranged for guitar, right?
That's right.
Okay, so why don't you tell us about a little bit about yourself now? So I just learned in your bio you were discovered when you're 12 years old through a YouTube channel. And so when did you start playing?
So before I started playing guitar, I actually started off with the violin at age 4. And, as any sort of parents do, they send their kids off for music lessons.
Yeah.
And that's how I got started with that. And 3 months into the violin lessons, my teacher decided that it was just too much for him. He was quite elderly, and he was like, this kid's not paying attention. He's running around the studio way too much. So he kicked me out, basically. And it was from there, my dad, who happened to play the guitar as a teenager himself, decided to take up the mantle to teach me guitar as well. So with the violin lessons, I was going through the Suzuki method, and he decided to continue that with Suzuki guitar, which is actually quite new at the time. And we made it into a family bonding activity where my mom would actually be behind the camera and filming me and my dad in our sort of living room, and just keeping it for the memories, right? And I felt that it was really different from the teacher-student relationship, and it being father and son. We actually had the opportunity to play a little bit every day, and I felt that definitely brought, us as a family closer. And because I got to, learn from someone at home, he was basically my private tutor at home who could teach me every day, and that helped me improve rather quickly, I think. So, yeah, and through this sort of serious hobby,
Right.
we, opportunities came by to play at community events, in different parts of the country, and slowly that became more serious when I started having lessons from teachers apart from my dad, as well as master classes from artists that, came into the country. And from that point on, I, decided to take it more seriously as a potential career.
I see.
And throughout that whole journey,
Yeah.
I was very fortunate because of my parents filming all these videos, where we were like, hey, we have this collection. We just wanted to share with others what we do and what we enjoy. So that's how the YouTube channel eventually came about. And I'm so thankful for that YouTube channel because of the opportunities that came along with it. People watch and they would write to us and be, hey, would you like to perform in this concert or something like that? And as you mentioned, the big hit was the Menuhin School extending an invitation to audition when I was 12.
Yep.
And at the time, genuinely, I had no idea about the music scene outside Singapore, apart from, the famous classical guitarists. And, after reading up about the school, I was absolutely amazed that there were so many young talents from all over the world, all in one place and, making music together. So went over for the audition. That was during the June holidays. And very quickly, I got a reply saying that, I got a spot. And
Wow.
yeah, and the rest is history. Never looked back. Spent 7 incredible years there.
I see.
Since then, 2 years of NS, and then back in the UK again, where I'm currently studying at Cambridge University doing music.
I see. Wow. Thank you for that. And so it started from YouTube, basically.
Yeah.
You're right.
You're
Okay.
right.
But I got to say, your dad was pretty cool. I mean, to foresee, to be posting YouTube stuff before it was now everyone's trying to do YouTube, right? Including ourselves.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. I think that's one of the things, at that point, YouTube was quite early on in the YouTube scene.
Yeah.
And yeah, I have my dad my parents to thank for the incredible foresight. I mean, who would have thought that, these casual collection of videos could turn into something,
Yeah.
like that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, apart from all this, I know you went into Cambridge and all, but you're being a little bit humble right now because I know that you also won a lot of awards and competitions as well, right? And how was that experience like? You also mentioned you were the first Asian guitarist to be accepted into Yehudi Menuhin School. So, firstly, I would think that there's not a lot of classical guitarists to begin with. And
That's
then
right. Yeah.
Even more so, there's less Asian classical guitarists in the scene, I would assume. Correct me if I'm wrong, but so how was joining all these international competitions and winning those competitions? How was that experience like for you?
So with regards to the scene, definitely in Singapore, it's a very small scene, but it's growing and there's lots of scope because in the local schools there are a lot of guitar ensembles coming about. So there are definitely more and more people playing. Now with regards to international competitions, that's a whole different ball game. Graduating from having just studied locally in Singapore to worldwide competitions, right? It's just incredible to see so many players that are all so young and yet so high caliber. You often on nowadays in the age of social media, you're always watching videos of people playing, and it's like, wow, this guy's incredible. And then when you go to competitions like these, you actually meet them in person and see what they're doing. So it's a real eye opener to see how so many people are really sort of honing their craft, because with classical music, there's this idea that everyone's always sort of working their best to achieve the best possible performance. So along the way, of course, with competitions, I've been very fortunate to win a few along the way, and it's been an incredible journey. Yeah, and I think having gone through the experience at Menuhin as well, I think again both competitions and having gone to school, it's really such a eye opener, and I'm really excited with what I've learned to be able to contribute back eventually in Singapore and share what I've learned along the way. So yeah,
I see. That's really inspiring to hear. And why don't we go to maybe the second piece? I'm super excited to hear this one as well.
sure.
So tell us a little bit about it and take it away.
Yeah, so the second piece is called Sevilla from the Opus 47 by Spanish composer Isaac Albéniz. Albéniz is one of three composers along with Granados and Defaya who were very active during the Spanish nationalism period. They were super into local influences in their music. So Sevilla is actually the name of a place in Spain. And
I see. And in fact, your guitar is a Spanish guitar, right? Classical guitar is also called Spanish guitar as well, if I'm not wrong.
classical guitar and Spanish guitar isn't exactly the same.
Yes, teach me about it.
Sure. So just very briefly, when people think about classical guitar, they might think Spanish guitar or otherwise known as flamenco. But in terms of the way it's played and the way it's built, there are slight differences. So with classical guitar, there's a very sort of standard traditional build. But of course, as many instruments go, there were previous versions and they had completely different shapes, but they eventually got to the shape that we see now from classical guitarists like Francisco Tárrega and Miguel Llobet. And this is around the same time as the famous Andres Segovia. It was because of Segovia that we eventually recognized this as the modern concert instrument that we see today.
I see.
Yeah, so just sort of quickly going back to the Albéniz, because of the Spanish influence in his compositions, definitely the guitar was one of the sort of... he tried to emulate the sounds of the guitar in some of his writing, although he was mainly a pianist. So in this piece, you will hear a lot of strumming and chord-like passages that just suit the guitar so well, and which is why it was very natural for a guitarist to often, to transcribe this piece for the guitar. And I think at one point, I stand corrected, but I believe at one point Albéniz even said that, after hearing his pieces on guitar, he said that it just sounded better on the guitar rather than on the piano. So it's really interesting that, he may not be a guitarist, but emulating that kind of sound, through his writing. And yeah, it's one of the most famous pieces. I think a lot of audiences are surprised when they find out that actually this is originally a piano piece rather than a guitar piece. So yeah, this is Albéniz's Sevilla, Opus 47, number 3.
Whew, that was spicy. I can just imagine myself walking down a road in Spain.
Oh.
You know, there's maybe like a bull chasing me or something. People throwing tomato at me. And I mean, that's just really beautiful. Thank you for the
Thanks.
performance. And as you said, I can completely hear the Spanish influence over there.
Yeah.
So, and I think there's a lot to talk about in the piece. I mean, you told us a little bit about the composer. How about you tell us a little bit about the piece? So, is there any interesting story behind it, or maybe even technical things like, what's the structure of this song like, or what was the challenging thing about practicing this song, or yeah, really anything
think
about it?
For me, one of the big things that stand out for this piece is how technically challenging it can be, and yet when you perform it, it has to seem super smooth with no obstacles at all. So with this piece, the unusual thing to start with is it's not standard tuning. You have the 5th string in the G, and the 6th string would be D tuning. So that in itself, for us classical guitarists, we are very happy with standard tuning, or we drop the 6th string to a D, and that's about it. Anything after that, it gets really exotic for us. So it gets a bit, it takes a bit of time getting used to, and then a lot of these raschiato, we call raschiato when you're doing these kind of sort of strumming.
Raschiato.
Yeah, that's the term.
I see. Is that a Spanish word?
Yeah, no, that's
Okay.
right. Yeah, so yeah, there are a lot of, as you can see, we're jumping all over the place, and it's really technically demanding, and yet we have to keep it as smooth as possible. So yeah, this is a tough one. Yeah.
I mean, for sure, I can tell that. And also, I really love the B section for me. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not sure if it's the right way to put it.
Yeah,
the
no,
B
sure,
section.
yeah, no.
When you had to change the tuning and you went into slower tempo
Right.
before you pick it back up again. And there was something about it to me, like the whole vibe changed. Was it the kind of notes you're using, the scales you were using, or
So the, as you rightly point out, B section. So this
Okay.
piece, ternary A, B, A,
Okay.
right? So
yeah.
we're in G major, and then the B section, really thin, very light texture. Well, not just light. There are bits that are really intense as well. But it's really the way I like to think about it is that you're really being very vulnerable in that section when you play, and you have to focus everything onto this one point here as the performer, because all eyes are on you at that point. It's so silent, you can hear the pin drop, and if you screw up, everyone can tell. So
Yeah.
you're really grabbing everyone's attention
Uh-huh.
at that moment. So yeah, no, but for sure, like there are really light, delicate, and melodious moments in that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for that. And
Thank you.
and thank you for telling us about the interesting thing as well. I've never knew this. I just know that Spanish music are, often played on guitars.
Yeah.
And that's more or less all I knew about.
Yeah, no,
it.
there's
And-
so much repertoire out there. I think
would
just
you say
like
so?
yeah, no,
Okay.
for sure. I think the term classical guitar and also the term classical music, both terms can be slightly misleading from time to time, and it really depends, right? Because you can say, if you've learned a little bit of classical music, you might have come across the different terms like baroque, classical, romantic,
Yeah.
modern, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So when people think classical music, nowadays it's basically become an umbrella term that consists of all these different periods. So when you say classical music, people might just imagine violin or piano and like prim and proper in a concert hall kind of thing. And similarly with guitar, you have this a common assumption that it could be Spanish guitar, but there are lots of music out there from the Renaissance all the way until now that's so different. Yeah. So
I
there's lots
see.
of music out there.
I
Yeah.
see. Okay, that's good to know. Because my impression was,
Yeah.
as you know, there are a few instruments that always pop up in classical music, as you mentioned, right? Piano, violin,
Yeah.
violin concerto, piano concerto. There
Yeah.
are a lot of repertoires for these popular instruments, but for guitar, maybe there's not so much that. But as you said, there's things that we do not know about, and yeah, learning new things. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
okay, so let's go to the last song of the set.
All right. So the this piece is by a Brazilian-American composer, Clarice Assad. I first got to know of her through the Assad brothers, who are one of the most famous classical guitar duos today. And the Assad family is a very musical family. So not just the brothers who are Sergio and Oder Assad. They also have a sister, Badi, who also plays a lot. And the composer of this piece, Clarice Assad, is the daughter of Sergio Assad.
Ah, I see.
I don't think I might be wrong. Does she play guitar? I guess she might have dabbled with it, but I think her main instrument is piano, I think.
Ah, okay.
So this piece is originally for piano, and it's a slightly more jazzy influence, very
Brazilian.
improvisatory. Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
So, and this is a very wonderful arrangement that was done for guitar.
Okay.
Yeah, we've sort of contacted before through email. She's a very lovely person, and I enjoy playing her music. So
I see.
Yeah,
Okay, sure. So take it away.
thank you.
All right, that was the last song by Clarice Assad. And perfect song to end off the night. Is that why I chose it? The
Yeah,
last song.
I mean, yeah, no, it's fun with that title as well. But I
Yeah.
think it's just such a beautiful piece to play.
It is.
So
Yeah.
very nice way to round off.
Absolutely. So, and I was just reading up briefly about the composer as well, and she's pretty young actually.
Yeah.
And, yeah, 'cause, there's impression from people, I think, the general public, that classical composers are generally dead people, but you're wrong. There are composers out there who still writes music, beautiful music like these, and I guess she's one of them. And yeah, thank you for your rendition of this song.
Yeah, thank you.
So, tell me maybe a little bit about this piece. It's something very different, especially compared to the very first one you've played. You've gone all the way from Baroque all the way to a modern piece of music, jazz.
Yeah.
So, right. How do you switch the styles? Like, would you say you have a style that you always go for, or are you really open to playing anything that is, that catches your ears?
I think you hit one of the beautiful things about classical guitar. So earlier you were talking about the amount of repertoire there is.
Yes.
So there certainly is a wide variety, but I think in terms of the actual quantity, it's questionable as to how much there is, and that's precisely why we start branching out to things like arrangements. So the first piece was originally a cello piece, the second piece originally a piano piece, and so is this third one. So funnily enough, a lot of the repertoire that we play isn't necessarily original to classical guitar. But at the same time, the guitar is such a popular instrument that we all know, not necessarily from the classical perspective, but it's precisely because we have so many sort of faces or different identities of the instrument that we get this opportunity to be so versatile. So I think we have, this opportunity to explore all these different kinds of music. And, as a guitarist, we try to play a little bit of everything. I think we all do that from time to time. We all love, a lot of us love jazz, so there are a lot of jazz arrangements out there. So, yeah, I think particularly with her background, with her dad in the Assad brothers, I definitely like the guitar is an obvious fit there, and of course with her Brazilian background as well. So although this was a piano piece, this arrangement that was so well done, like it works perfectly. And again, like we get to explore a different part of the guitar because again with the tuning, there's the G on the 5th string, but we go to a low C for a 6th string, which is very, very unusual for classical guitar. It's starting to become a little bit more common with one or two other pieces though, but yeah, it's still very rare.
I see. So that's piece that you played beforehand, was a D.
Yeah,
tuning.
G. It was G and D.
And D.
Right.
And then
but
this one
G
goes even lower to a C.
Yeah.
I see. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. And then they're often the case that with in South America, when you have guitars that have additional strings, I think when you start looking at guitars with 7 or 8 strings, it's very common that, say, if it's a 7-string guitar, the lowest string would be a C. It's very that would be quite common. Yeah.
I see. Okay. Anyways, thank you, Kevin, so much for being here. I just want to end the night off. Maybe, do you have anything to say for maybe people who are starting to play classical guitar? Because there might not be so many, figures locally in Singapore, they can look up to. And do you have any words for any musicians, classical musicians, especially guitarists? Anything for them?
Yeah. I think, like I was mentioning earlier, like although we may be few in numbers, but we are continuing to grow, in terms of music and all the inspiration you can find out there. Like try to listen to as much music as you can. It doesn't matter what genre. Again, with classical guitar, we play a lot of different genres. And of course, that includes the music that you like to play. Music is something that we need to enjoy doing rather than it being a sort of technical chore. So enjoy the process as much as you can, learn as much as you can, and if you can, do find a good teacher as well. You can learn so far, on your own. My dad, for example, was self-taught, but he eventually, gone to a teacher as well. And once you have a good teacher, you're in good hands.
Are you available to teach as well?
Yeah, I mean, I do teach from time to time. Yeah, I mean, right now, I happen to be in Singapore, but because I'm usually in the UK, I'm based overseas. But I'm definitely looking to teaching more actively in the future.
I
back
see.
home. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kevin, for being here. It was
Thank you.
inspiring, and that was awesome. So I just want to address the audience right now, and thank you everyone for joining us tonight for the Modular House Show Season 2 featuring Kevin Loh. And if you like what you heard, and if you want to check out more stuff, you can check out Kevin right here. And also, if you like what you're watching, you can check out Modular House Productions socials right here as well. So I would like to thank all our sponsors. Firstly, Pantheon Percussions for sponsoring us venue you're watching right now here, and also Audio Technica for providing us with all the beautiful microphones that recorded Kevin's guitar and our voices, and also NAC for supporting us and making all this thing possible. So thank you everyone, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.